Good morning and
Hello.
welcome to the Self-Isolating Bird Club.
Self-isolating poodle club.
Yeah.
Now that would
Here
be
they
fun,
are.
wouldn't it?
Nancy and Sid, freshly groomed and smelling so good actually.
So nice.
Smelling
Makes
so
a
good.
change.
Yeah, I
Makes
don't
a
know. I
change.
quite like the sort of poodles don't smell like typical dogs because of their inability to shed hair. So they don't smell like a wet lab on a muddy
But
day
they often smell like
in the
grass
back of a
snake
Land Rover.
or fox excrement.
Oh, they do that.
They like that.
They dress themselves up.
They
Hey,
do.
what about those ospreys? Ospreys
Oh,
there at the
pretty good.
Diffie Osprey project in Wales, close to where we were doing Spring Watch a few years ago. The young seem to have fledged. There's a couple of them hanging around there, but there's also an adult as well. Worth having a look at that. You can go along to diffieospreyproject.com. Quite easy to remember that one. Diffie, so that's D-Y-F-I, ospreyproject.com. We've also got a donation box on there as well. And in these tough times, our wildlife trusts are having quite a difficult time. Not so many people going through their centres. So in order to keep those cameras up on screen for next year, and they have entertained us all so well this year,
Brilliant.
might be nice to make a small donation and keep an eye on those ospreys. Absolutely top work. Yeah.
So what's coming up for you today? Well, later on at the end of the programme, Chris and I have an announcement to make, which we're very excited about. But before that, we have got, of course, updates on Goshawks and Fabian Swift.
Yep.
We're also talking to Corina Newsome, who is a fantastic scientist out in America. She was also one of the founders of Black Birders Week. So we had a chat with her earlier on, so we'll be showing you a little bit of that as well.
Andy
We've got
Rouse.
Andy Rouse.
Andy Rouse is
Of
up to his throat in water.
You don't want to miss that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's humming. His humming you might want to
And
miss.
he's humming aha. Oh, I can't wait. I really can't.
But
and
anyway,
also we've got Nicholas Milton, a friend of
Yes.
mine, who's a curious mix, a really good curious mix of historian and natural historian. A man who's very passionate about natural history, worked on the Really Wild show years.
Did he?
Yes, he did. Years
Oh.
and years back with me. But also
Nice.
a very keen historian, and he's written a fabulous book about Neville Chamberlain. But Neville Chamberlain was also a very passionate naturalist. We've got a bit coming up about that. I love a mix of history and natural history. It's fantastic. It's the first time I've been able to do that as well.
Yeah.
So we'll tell you a bit about that. We've got the quiz, of course. Should we do the quiz now?
Oh, let's do the quiz.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Here's this week's quiz then. Have a listen. See if you can discern which UK living creature this is.
Tricky.
I like this one because it is a little bit more difficult. Last week we did fox, didn't we?
We did
Too
Screaming
easy.
Fox. Yeah, you got it straight away.
Too easy.
We've got around to be honest, I thought this one,
Yeah.
could be okay. But actually the recording is it's not what you think it is.
No.
It's really not.
Well, I don't give too many clues because
just saying it's
I'm
not what you
prepared to
think it
say that if anyone, if one person, careful, if one person right, gets this right, I will. I was going to say I'll eat this poodle,
Oh,
but I
no.
won't. I don't know what I'll do. I'll give Megan £1.
Oh, great. Lucky me.
Megan £1.
Please, everyone. Do I get £1 per person that gets it
No,
right?
no, just £1. I don't think anyone's going to get it.
Well, if you get the type of animal, but if you get the exact species.
No, I'm talking about the exact species. Yeah.
Get the exact species. That
Well,
would be
we're giving too many
impressive.
clues away. A short while ago, I just returned from walking these beautiful creatures in the woods one morning when there was an almighty crash and something hit the ground. And I went outside to find that a goshawk, a juvenile goshawk, had flown into the window. The blinds were down, I've got to tell you. So it wasn't as if it couldn't see through. It saw a reflection of the countryside beyond and flew into it. The blinds were down. Anyway, it crashed into the window and I was able to pick it up and deliver it safely to the National Bird of Prey Hospital at the Hawk Conservancy Trust near Way Hill in Hampshire. And they have an enormous expertise in putting raptors back together and essentially getting them back into the wild. That's what it's really all about. We've got to get this bird back into the wild. It had a small scuff over one of its eyes. It also had some cuts on its feet. So rather than just give it some food, and it's eating rats, a lot of rats actually, and releasing it back here, of course, they decided to take it to the vets and give it some scans and x-rays. And we've got an x-ray here. Here you can see an x-ray of pretty much the entire bird. Fascinating that. Look at that. I love looking inside a goshawk.
Isn't it?
You look at the tail. You can see the tail
It's
there.
incredible. You never really think about what the skeleton of these birds looks like, but it's so,
Yeah.
with the arms bent in, it's quite I don't know, it's very surreal,
Arms.
isn't it? It's, well, wings, but it looks like arms, doesn't it?
It does look like arms.
Yeah, it looks almost like
But what you can see from that is no broken legs, no broken wings. That's really good news. But there is another X-ray which isn't quite such good news, and this was the X-ray they took of its foot. And you may recall that I mentioned that it had an injury to its foot which it had sustained before it crashed into the window. It was a cut on its foot which had healed. It turns out that there's a fracture in one of its toes, and as a consequence of that, when I saw that goshawk on Sunday, its feet were all bandaged up. It's still indoors in a relatively confined, cleanable space where it can't harm itself. Which is the best place for it to be at the moment, so it can take on lots of food without wasting any energy. The plan is to remove the bandages from its feet, having had that little operation to make sure that it heals properly. And given that these are, well, every part of the bird is important, but for a goshawk, the feet are its weapons. It's what it catches its food with. They need to operate properly. To get the bandages off, then it will go into an outdoor enclosure where they'll continue to feed it. It will get some exercise then, so it'll be picking up its wing muscle strength. And then the plan is to bring it back here and release it. So it's still going well, still taking on weight, and it's receiving excellent care at the Hawk Conservancy. And whilst I was up there, I've got to draw your attention to this, 'cause it's so good. Actually, I'm going to put Nancy down. She's fidgeting. Come on, Nancy. There you go. A visit to the Hawk Conservancy Trust is always a treat, particularly this year. They've got their own, wait until you see this, top trumps.
I love top trumps.
Hawk Conservancy top trumps. Look at this. Look, golden eagle. Yeah. So you get, when you go in, now you get an extra card, which is not in this sort of pack. Hey, look at these. Look, this one here. I've got burrowing owl. Let's get my glasses on.
Well, that Egyptian vulture's good. But it's what they've kind of categorised them as is really good.
Yeah.
So wingspan, of course.
Yeah.
Talonometer. Yeah. Very important.
Camouflage factor. Beakiness.
Beakiness is my favourite.
Yeah.
It's beakiness.
Predator rating. Okay, predator rating.
Yeah. Are we playing?
Well, go on. What's your predator rating of golden eagle?
4.
4?
Yeah.
Out of what?
6. I'm not sure exactly what.
But that's a pretty good. I mean, well, hold on. See, golden eagles will scavenge, so that's going to knock down their predator rating, isn't it? Really, they're going to scavenge in the wintertime. I've got Stella's sea eagle here, predator rating 4. There we are. You see.
Okay, peregrine falcon.
Oh, come on,
predator rating.
Yeah, come on, 5.
6.
6. Yes. Excellent stuff. Anyway, look, when you go along to the Hawk Conservancy, give me those because I don't want to lose them. But you can get your own top trumps plus those extra cards when you go round. And of course, it is open. All sorts of social distancing measures are in place. It's a fantastic place to go. And hopefully we'll be getting the goshawk back relatively soon. But of course, that wasn't our only bird rescue on SIBC, was it?
No, Fabian had a bird as well. He had a little swift. And if you remember last week, how adorable it was. Oh my goodness. Sitting in the palm of his hand, and he worked incredibly hard, of course, to sustain it, make sure it was well. He got lots of different advice from experts, which is really important to do. So if you do find a swift on the ground, make sure that you look up www.swiftconservation.org, has some really good advice, and speak to the experts about what's best to do. But what happened to his little swift? Well, after a little bit of rehabilitation, some fattening up.
A lot of hard work, actually.
A lot of hard work.
Catching insects.
He was constantly out sweep netting for
not just him, the whole community, I think. I think everyone was out sweep netting for that street.
I'm not sure there's any invertebrates left. That's true.
Oh, I do.
But what happened?
Look at that. Look at that.
Isn't that beautiful? That
is one of the most satisfying short clips that I've seen. Now stick with it, because you can see the swift flying there up in the sky, and it kind of disappears for a little bit. So you've got to stick with it. But it is there. It's just very small. And then, do you know what the really romantic thing Fabian told us was that when he released it, it flew up into the sky, circled around. Look, there it is. There it is. There you can see it again. Look there. Look at that. Circled around a bit. And then 2 other already free-flying wild swifts came down, joined it, and they flew off together into the sunset. Well, not quite sunset, but they flew off together. So it
the horizon.
It teamed up with other swifts.
Just perfect timing to release a swift, to come down out of the clouds. I think he said that they just emerged out of the clouds like magic, and they just flew off together.
I can't imagine how excited he was, and how satisfying, satisfying for all of that, Fabian and all those people that had put all that effort in. But as you say, Meg, so what it says here, Swift Conservation, swift-conservation.org is the place to go for advice. If you find a swift, put put it in a cardboard box away from pets and call a swift rehabilitation specialist for advice. Whatever you do, don't feed it anything but insects. Apparently people have been feeding them things like mincemeat and all sorts of things like that. So firstly, go to that website, look at the advice they've got there. And then also, if you are close to a bird hospital with expertise in hirundines, swifts and martins, then you might think about taking it there, because the amount of effort that Fabian had to put in to feed that animal, and he knows about birds, he's very good with his birds. So specialist care is required. So once again, swift-conservation.org. Excellent stuff. What about that? I love a good news story.
Oh, I know, it's nice, isn't it, to be able to see that swift, and it's
There's not a good news story going on there, is there? Some sort of fracas.
Excuse me, Pops.
Hey, excuse me. They're fighting over a wood pigeon feather. I mean, it's not even like fighting over a goshawk feather.
Don't have very high standards.
You will remember earlier in the year we were able to profile Black Birders Week. Well, I was very pleased to say that earlier in the week I was able to have a chat to the inaugurator of that, a remarkable young American scientist who was repulsed and very upset by what she saw when she saw some racism that was exhibited towards a birder in Central Park. She's a fantastic young woman, great breadth of experience already, I have to say, incredibly passionate, and I was able to chat to her earlier, and here's the interview that I conducted. Corina, really nice to speak to you. Let's take it back in time and back to basics. How did you get into birding and wildlife?
Well, wildlife in general had always been an interest of mine. And when I was 4 or 5 years old, I wrote a little note to myself that said, when I grow up, I want to be a scientist, and I want to be a scientist on bugs and animals. So I knew pretty early on that I wanted to work with wildlife in some capacity. But because I grew up in the city in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I didn't really see a lot of birds around me or wildlife around me. And it actually wasn't until I was all the way in college that I began to appreciate native wildlife at all, especially birds, because I assumed that all birds were basically the same color, pretty uninteresting among wildlife. And I found out quickly that I was wrong. So when I took ornithology, study of birds, the first bird that I learned about was the blue jay. And when I tell you I was shocked that such a beautiful bird could live in North America, I was blown away. Everyone thought I was crazy because I'd never seen a blue jay before, which is a fairly common bird in North America. And so once I saw that blue jay, I was kind of hooked, addicted to finding birds. And from that point forward, I have been birding recreationally and decided that I wanted to work towards the conservation of birds for my career.
And what about when you were young? Did your parents encourage your desire to be a young scientist? And also, what about mentors? Did you have, outside of the family perhaps, any mentors that really encouraged you to pursue this? Because sometimes it's not easy for young women to find their way into science.
That's true, yeah. So before my father passed away, he had accumulated lots and lots of books about the natural world, which I paged through religiously because I was so intrigued by it. And my mother was a very outdoorsy, adventurous type. And so she always encouraged my passion for wildlife and would oftentimes take us outside of the city, out into the suburbs where there was more like natural spaces and green spaces. And we would just walk around and soak it up. We didn't know what we were looking at as far as wildlife is concerned, but she would take us out so that we could get exposure outside of the city. So my mother really encouraged it. And my father had books that I still to this day use and read out of curiosity. And my grandmother, she would send me National Geographic magazines all the time. I would look forward to that every couple months because I get a whole stack. But none of them were wildlife experts, right? They couldn't really help me necessarily in guiding me towards a career. And so when I was a senior in high school, there was a black zookeeper who was the lead carnivore keeper at my local zoo, the Philadelphia Zoo. And she had, through a family friend, heard that I was interested in wildlife but had no direction. And so she reached out to me and invited me to come behind the scenes with her to watch how she breeds giant river otters, how she trains Canadian lynx, what the diet preparation looks like for all kinds of carnivores behind the scenes that I never would have even known existed. And I got to see a reflection of myself in the field. So I kind of got 2 for 1. And that was essentially the springboard. And to this day, she still mentors me in my career and encourages me. But that was essentially what got me started on the career path that I'm in.
That's fantastic to have someone like that. And you've spent quite a bit of time working in zoological collections, I understand, as well.
Yes, I started at the Philadelphia Zoo, my home zoo, interning during the summers in college. And then after that, I was a zookeeper for about 4 years.
Excellent. And now birding's taken over, as you say, recreationally. Where do you go birding? What do you see? What's top bird on your list recently?
So my top bird to find, so like my unicorn bird right now is the American avocet, which is a bird that you can find in wetlands. And I currently live on the southern part of Georgia here in the US, on the coast specifically. So I should be able to see one. For some reason, they have evaded me. So that's the bird that I'm looking for right now. But during the breeding season, there are so many rookeries down here where you can see all kinds of wading birds like roseate spoonbills and great egrets, which are absolutely ridiculous birds when they're fledglings. They're hilarious to watch. And all kinds of birds during the breeding season. So I go to any of the rookeries here on the coast.
Those American avocets are striking birds. They're, I should say, for the purpose of our viewers, they're slightly different. Ours are purely pied, so they're just sort of black and white with blue legs and bill. But yours have that lovely golden orange head in the breeding season, don't they? They're pretty special.
Yes, they do. And so I'm trying to, like, feverishly, before I'm finished on the coast here, find one so I can get it on my list and see the beauty for myself.
Your birding obviously, has drew your attention to that horrific incident in Central Park earlier this year. Christian Cooper was abused there, and your response was to do something truly inspirational. So tell us about how you felt when you first saw that recording of that racial abuse, and then what happened in terms of developing Blackbirders Week.
Yeah, so when I saw that video, it essentially reminded me of the experience of Black people anywhere. There is this essentially constant reminder that you have to not threaten the comfort of white people in your space, or else something like the police can be weaponized against you. And in the United States, we've seen repeatedly that use of force is much greater against Black bodies, against Black people. And so when I saw that video, I immediately imagined the way that it could have ended, and the way that it's ended for many, especially Black men's lives. And we saw later that day ended a Black man's life. And so my visceral reaction was like relief that it didn't get worse, but it was very familiar to see that. And so because Christian is a person that many of us in my friend group, my birding friend group, know of, and some of us know him personally, we were enraged because now it was kind of hitting close to home. So I have a group of friends. My friend Jason Ward, who's a birder here in the U.S., started a group chat of just Black people who enjoy nature and the outdoors. And so one of the women in the group was like, you know what, we need to do something to celebrate Black birders and bring awareness to the experience of Black birders. And it kind of went from there. And within literally 48 hours, we had crafted an entire week of like online engagement and celebration and conversation to establish and to accomplish exactly what we wanted to do. And, we had 6 days of engagement around the country and around the world, Black people kind of celebrating Blackness in the outdoors, and people who aren't Black being willing to engage in conversation about what our experience has been. And so it was absolutely an honor and so encouraging to do.
And it was picked up widely. That's the really great thing. It was all over the United States media. You did brilliantly there. But I have to tell you, here in the UK, it was all over our social media too. It was inspirational for so many people.
Wow. And every time I heard someone talk about their experience from somewhere that wasn't a place that I'd been and somewhere outside of the US, I was reminded of how important it is that Black people find community in these spaces.
And next year, presumably it will become an annual thing now. It should grow and grow, I hope.
Absolutely. We are going to be planning next year's Blackbirders Week bigger and more, and reaching even further, hopefully. And one thing that's been great to see is that it's inspired a lot of other kind of groups within the Black community who do STEM careers or recreational STEM activities to start their own Black blank week. So for example, there was Black Botanist Week, and there's Black Neurobiology Week. So many opportunities to celebrate Blackness in the STEM spaces, and it's been so wonderful.
That's fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. Congratulations to you and all of your team. It was, as I say, truly inspirational and sadly long overdue, but going from strength to strength will be a great way forward. I'd just like to conclude by drawing everyone's attention to your, well, should we say musical career? Because I found, I know, I don't know whether you know what. So I see that you covered a rap with your own little sort of nod to twitching, as we call it in the UK, when people go out, they get their big list and anything for the count. Got any more plans? I mean, that's a great way of communicating with a part of society that typically isn't involved in birding. That's got to be said.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because that was totally a joke that me and my friend, we were supposed to be studying for finals and doing all this work, but we were like, you know what? Let's instead remix a Cardi B and Offset rap to talk about birds. And we did it, and then people liked it, which we were surprised by or entertained by it. So I've been trying to think of ways to remix more songs. That was supposed to be a one-off situation, but the fans love it.
Well, the fans are going to love it even more now, Corina, because we're going to play it if we can off the back of this interview. So you'll get some UK fan base developing here. Thanks ever so much for taking the time to chat to us. It's fantastic. As I say, you've become an inspirational force in world birding, and we really wish you well. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's an honor to meet you finally. Been a huge fan, and it's great to talk to you.
Corina is such an inspirational woman. She is absolutely incredible. Every time I've heard her speak or talk about, the science that she does, she's so, and that's so kind of engaging and inspiring to kind of be around. But I have to say, the rap. I listened to it 3 times back to back last night. It is so good, and it's made me appreciate her more. So without further ado, I'm not going to keep you from the rap any longer. Here she is.
Anything for the count. They do anything for the count. Do anything for the count. They do anything for the count.
Look, whole lot of people need to hear this. It's a lot of birds on my life list. Mockingbirds say what they want to. Albatross taking care of big dick. I should write a whole blog at this rate. Use Mandarin ducks for clickbait. Team Fish always wanna start big beefs, but we not even playing in the same game. They know bird is a bomb, they taking this off. Look at his grades for watching the Hawks. I know that mean they just not exposed, but somebody just gotta show them it's dope. So wherever they trained or out in the wild, I'm hearing the birds, I'm writing them down. Tan pronto que aves quiere cantar, they singing like Destiny Child. Everybody wanna see tits, everybody wanna see chicks, everybody wanna be this. If I was you, I start my list, follow my lead and catch my drift. All these reflections, I'm calling them out. Windows is killing, too many to count. If you're not a birder, then you gotta bounce. I got the bins, come get them now. We do anything for the count, do anything for the count. They flying north, they flying west, birds flying south. Seeing me win, it gotta hurt. Ouch, I'm seeing them all, and you trying to stop me? Nope, not from the couch.
Do anything for the count. They do anything for the count. Do anything for the count. They do anything for the count.
Superb.
She's got some beats, hasn't she? she's got the beats going on.
Oh, it's good. It's so good, isn't it?
I love it.
Yeah, it's good lyrics as well.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
It's really well done.
Bit twitchy
Yeah.
for those who are on the count.
Yeah,
obviously, bit twitchy. Yeah, tempted to
Get your
sort of.
lists.
No, I'm not doing a rap, but
Are you?
I thought about Tom Petty did that
Yeah.
song I Won't Back Down.
Oh yeah.
Johnny Cash got Johnny Cash to sing it as well. It's a really
Are
great
you
song.
going to do a rendition for us?
I have so little musical ability. Not now.
No.
Might get myself a guitar, black shirt, dye my hair black. Look, it's
Great.
looking a bit Cash this morning. If it was black, go through
Yeah.
probably 15 to 20 years of voice training, and then do it.
So you got that to look forward to, guys. 15 to 20 years time.
Yeah.
Lucky
it
us.
would take that long. Well, it'd take longer than that
It
for
would take
anyone to
longer.
emulate Johnny Cash, to be quite honest with you. There is no one who can emulate Johnny Cash. Amazing.
Anyway, we've gone off track.
Yeah.
Now, last week we were talking about verges and wildflowers, and we were showcasing some beautiful areas that had a huge range of diversity that was interacting in all kinds of life. And we asked you to send us in some photographs of verges and wildflower patches that you had around your local area that you wanted to share, and they are absolutely stunning. So we've got a few of those that have been sent in by you. The first one is from Grant Matton. This was sent in to us on Twitter, of his front lawn.
Wow.
I mean, it's not really, it's more of a meadow, isn't it, than a front
It's
lawn?
looking pretty good, isn't it?
I love that.
I love that.
It's beautiful, all those dandelions there. Absolutely stunning.
It's better than boring grass, isn't it?
Oh, so much better.
And also easier to manage. You don't have to mow it.
Yeah.
Backwards and forwards, mowing it, getting fretty about moss growing in it, or clover growing in it, or dogs
All that
weeing on
pollen
it.
as well. And dandelions, the one which we don't like very much, but they
No.
actually have such a high pollen content.
Yep.
They are so beneficial.
Really
of all
good.
the things Dandelions are
And
great.
the colour so intense.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely. This next one was sent in to us by Liz Stewart. She was sent in to us on Facebook of a roundabout. So she says, our council near Corby, North Hampshire, have set wildflowers on our roundabouts this year. So well done to them. They look beautiful too.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Look at that.
I mean, of course, it's so important, obviously, to keep it safe. So you've got that mown bit around the edge. But in the middle, let it go wild.
Let it go wild, or
That's
planted,
so
that one, I
much.
think. Planted, yeah.
Yeah, and then this one was sent in to us by Sue Hale on Twitter of the front lawn, taken a few weeks ago, but wildflower budget sown in by London Borough and Hillingdon Council. Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Poppies.
Stunning.
Well, I can't see what else you've got. Cornflowers there.
Yeah.
Look like double flowered cornflowers.
Beautiful. Gosh, I'd love that. The next one was sent in to us by a friend of ours, actually, and he's recorded a little thing for us. Kabir Kool, you remember him? He's popped up on several South Islington Bird Club broadcasts, and he's done a little video of us talking about a roadside verge near him.
I'm in Hillingdon, and beside me is a wonderful wildflower meadow. On the other side of the road, the verges have been mowed, but here it has been allowed to grow wild. And as a result, it attracts many bees, butterflies, and birds too, in turn benefiting our well-being. Isn't it lovely?
Excellent stuff, Kabir. He's a really good young naturalist there, obviously working for Gap in his spare time. You wouldn't get away with that on the BBC, Kabir. I can tell you, a bit of product placement with your Gap t-shirt there. But look, irrelevant. All of those verges, roundabouts and lawns are looking good. I've got to draw attention to the fact that a little while ago, I congratulated a Scottish council for planting a mixture of wildflowers, native and non-native, on a roundabout. And I got a bit of a backlash, actually, an unruly backlash from botanists in the UK who said that I shouldn't have been congratulating them for planting non-native species. Well, of course, we all know that native species are better. But I happen to think that if someone's moving in that direction, if they've taken the trouble to think, well, we don't want just grass, we'll put some flowers in here, then congratulate them for going that far and use it as an opportunity to engage with them to say, what you did was good, but you could do it slightly better next year and concentrate on native wildflowers. Because in some of those patches we've just seen, there's non-native wildflowers, there's no question about that. But by engaging with these people and seeing that they've actually taken the time, the trouble, the effort, and probably spent some money, rather than slag them off for planting the wrong thing, encourage them, have a word with them, and get them to do it better next time. That's my approach, personally.
Yeah, you've got to congratulate people for moving in the right direction. Otherwise, everyone's going to take 2 steps back.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's always education. We always learn. I mean, we all know we want native wildflowers. We all know we want proper meadows. We know that. But we've got to teach people that. And that's an ongoing process. So through that process of change, when they're doing things and not getting it exactly right, best thing to do is stay on side, not pick a fight with them. That would be my thought. Anyway, should we move on to something completely different?
Let's.
Many years ago, I met Nicholas Milton. We've stayed in touch over the years, over all sorts of things. He's always been a very, very keen champion of the campaigns that I've run, actually, as well. I'm very helpful on that regard. He's a great natural historian, always had a keen passion for natural history, but also a passion for history too. And a couple of years ago, he contacted me, said, you know, I'm going to write a book about Neville Chamberlain. And I sort of thought, OK, Neville Chamberlain, we know about Neville Chamberlain. He was the Prime Minister as we went into the Second World War. History, to be fair, hasn't looked favourably upon him. So Nick wanted to take a reassessment of Neville Chamberlain from a historical point of view, but also he'd uncovered the fact that Neville was in fact a very, very keen naturalist in many regards. So here's Nick to tell us a little bit about this quixotic historical character, Neville Chamberlain.
Neville Chamberlain. When I say the words Neville Chamberlain to you, what do you think about? You probably think about him at Heston Aerodrome waving that piece of paper proclaiming peace for our time, or being duped by Hitler, or his controversial policy of appeasement in the run-up to the Second World War. But there was so much more to Neville Chamberlain than that. He was a great field naturalist who throughout his life loved wildlife. In his early 20s, he was particularly interested in butterflies and moths. And as you did then, he accumulated a huge collection. At the age of 25, he was sent by his father, Joseph, to the Bahamas to grow sisal to make the family fortune. Joseph was a very prominent politician of his era and had got into financial difficulties. Now, the business venture didn't work out, but while he was there, he collected a lot of butterflies and moths and afterwards sent them to the British Museum. There, they discovered a new species to science and named it after him, the Chamberlain's yellow butterfly. So Neville Chamberlain remains the only British Prime Minister to have discovered a new species to science and had it named after him. Isn't that fantastic? In 1937, when he became Prime Minister, he took his love of wildlife with him to Downing Street. One of the first things he did was to write an article in the Countryman magazine. I've got a copy of it here. The Natural History at Downing Street by the Prime Minister. They gave it prominent place on the cover. In it, he waxed lyrical about a leopard moth he found on a hawthorn tree in the garden, about the bird box he'd put up there, and about the bird sightings that civil servants and fellow politicians had sent him. As a result of that article, he was contacted by a birdwatcher called Gilbert Collett. Gilbert Collett's local patch was St James's Park, which was at the back of Downing Street. There he would go regularly bird watching, and he wrote to the Prime Minister asking him if he'd like to send him any bird sightings. Chamberlain enthusiastically took up his offer. I've got a picture of Collett here as a young man. There he is. And they corresponded with each other until Chamberlain's death in 1940. And I'd just like to read you an extract to show you about their relationship. On the 9th of December 1937, to escape from the pressure cooker environment of number 10, Chamberlain slipped out and went in search of a very rare bird that had turned up on the lake in St James's Park in the depths of winter. Chamberlain's daily walks around the park with his wife Annie had become a habitual part of his routine and were a vital way of dealing with the stress that he was under. Chamberlain had been tipped off by his fellow ornithologist Gilbert Collett that a scorp had been seen there the previous day. Despite his heavy workload, on hearing of the scorp's presence, Chamberlain was determined to see it. Together with Annie, his principal private secretary, Osmond Summers Cleverly, and his exasperated personal bodyguard, for whom the Prime Minister's daily walks were a constant source of anxiety, he scoured the lake until he found it. Now, what I found amazing about that is that Chamberlain's daily walks around St James's Park in search of birds continued even after we had declared war in September 1939. Another really important part of his legacy was that he helped to create the Wildlife Trust and the campaign to protect rural England. Wouldn't it be fantastic if now we had a Prime Minister who was that interested in natural history? Then maybe as a result of this dreadful coronavirus pandemic that we've all been living through, we'd have a green recovery with nature at its heart. Just think about that for a moment. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Excellent stuff.
Great
Excellent stuff, yeah. And Nick's book here, Neville Chamberlain's Legacy, I thoroughly recommend it. I really do. It's an interesting mix. And Chamberlain, you know, there's loads of stories in here about his birding and the things that he was corresponding with his colleagues about. And also the fact that he put bird boxes into number 10, which was really good. His butterflies, his passion when he was early on for moths in particular was incredible. It's a really, really interesting story. And I can tell you that Nick is also writing another couple of books at the moment, one about the First World War and natural history, and one about the Second World War and natural history. And frankly, I cannot wait. And I would push you to go to penandsword.co.uk to get a copy of that book. So that's pen-sword.co.uk. Pen and Sword. Excellent book. Neville Chamberlain's Legacy.
Now, we're going to do a very quick soapbox this morning, as we have been doing over the last few weeks. You might have guessed what that could be already. It's on our face. Of course, masks are incredibly important to wear at this point in time. Mine's slipping down. To wear at this point in time. In shops, everywhere, of course, please, please, please do wear a mask. For your safety, for everybody else's safety, it's really important that you have one and you put one on. But we are wearing a lot of masks.
A lot of disposable masks.
A lot of disposable masks.
Disposable. I mean, not single use, because, you know, you can wear them more than the glasses are steaming up. They're not single use, but they are disposable, and therefore people are disposing of them. And unfortunately, they've already become a new form of litter. look at this. Look at this. This is a juvenile, young, this year's peregrine falcon that appears to have become entangled in a mask. I can only imagine that it was perhaps fascinated by the mask, came down to play with it, but then it appears that it's become entangled with that. And these couple of shots show that. I imagine the peregrine would have the force to be able to tear that mask to pieces, to be quite honest with you, and get rid of it. But then we also have this other short clip here, which shows a gull which has got a mask tangled around its feet, probably one that was discarded on the beach, I suppose. And this is being removed here. And this was in Essex. Now, I mean, to be quite honest with you, firstly, if you are using disposable masks, the first thing to do is dispose of them properly. Don't discard them in the countryside where wildlife can become entangled with them, and they're obviously going to generate litter when they're washed out into the sea, and goodness knows what's in them. And of course, the answer really is to say no to the disposable mask and get yourself.
Oh, look how cool these are!
A reusable mask.
And you can get them really funky. You can get all kinds of animal stuff. I've been looking. They've become quite like fashionable, haven't they? You can get some really good reusable ones with lots of different styles. We went for fox, didn't we?
We got these at the British Wildlife Centre in Surrey when we were there a little while ago. In fact, we're hoping to have an update from our day out there in our programme next week. But you can get all sorts of funky masks with animals. The Hawks Conservancy are doing one with a bald eagle's beak on.
Oh, that's cool.
British Wildlife Centre, you could have fox, you could have wildcat. They had a whole range of these. And of course, once you've got one of these, you're going to love it. I love my fox one. I'm not going to lose it. I'm certainly not going to abandon it anywhere. It's not going to get entangled in anything. So as we move into this age of needing to wear masks in various public places, I think the message is clear. Use up the disposable ones you've got, dispose of them properly, and then get yourself a reusable mask.
And please do wear them.
A funky one, and obviously keep wearing them and following the government advice.
Yes. So, on to some more news. Things are, of course, starting to reopen. And Chris and I are both very excited for one particular place that's going to be reopening very soon. The Natural History Museum in London. Very exciting. Yeah,
I mean, I can't imagine not being able to go to the Natural History Museum. It's just one of those places, it's just the greatest edifice filled full of the repository of the most fascinating stuff. I love that place. I absolutely love it.
Me too.
Stephanie West is works there at the Angela Marmot Centre. She's been a correspondent of ours. Steph's a great woman, great biologist, great tutor, getting lots of younger people into science. But she has been away from the museum most of the summer. Gladly, she's now back, and here she is to tell us a bit about how you can visit in the forthcoming weeks.
Hi Chris, hi Megan, hi Self-Isolating Bird Club. As you can see, I'm actually back at the Natural History Museum today. I've been in a couple of times since lockdown and it's been quite eerie, quite empty. But as you can hear behind me this week, it's actually much busier because of course we're opening on the 5th of August. We're still going to be free, but you do need to book your ticket because it's going to be very limited numbers. But we're really excited to be reopening. A lot of the staff are returning from furlough at the moment. That's not just the front of house staff who'll be meeting you here, but also a lot of our science staff are coming back and starting to pick back up their work with collections. Everything while we've been away has been wonderfully looked after by all of our estates teams and the people who have been still popping in and checking on collections and equipment in the labs and things like that. So we can't wait to welcome you back to the museum. Of course, don't forget to bring your masks with you, my fancy little bat one made by a friend for me. So yeah, we really look forward to seeing you on the 5th of August or whenever you can make it over to London.
Great news.
Great news. Reopening.
Book now. I can imagine there'd be an enormous rush to go there. I would certainly be, if I was, anywhere near London, I'd be going in there. Yeah,
limited numbers, still free to go, of course. So make sure you go in. And what an iconic view there in that main entrance hall with Hope, the blue whale. Oh, I've sat under Hope a few times and just been
amazing.
Yeah, in one day.
And also really good that all the staff are going back to work behind the scenes as well, because they do some incredible research at the Natural History Museum. I woke up yesterday listening to the Today programme, as I do most mornings, or sometimes I wake before it starts, to be quite honest with you, but then it comes on. What drew my attention yesterday morning was that the Mammal Society had released figures about how endangered our native mammal fauna is. Bad news, isn't it?
Really bad news. About 1/3 of all native UK mammals are now threatened with extinction, which is pretty horrific. And we've got some new stats coming for you. So 45% need urgent action now.
Yeah. Got this graphic here. Look at this. They've done an excellent graphic. They've done one for Britain, one for Scotland, England and Wales separately, identifying. I've got a bit of wind here at the moment. So identifying, which species are in trouble, and they include, as you can imagine, Scottish wildcat. Scottish wildcat are in desperate trouble because of crossbreeding with feral cats. You could in fact argue that they're genetically extinct in the wild now, and our strongest hope comes with those animals which are in captivity, which have a higher degree of genetical integrity, and the plan is Scottish Wildcat Action are going to breed them and re-release them into safe sites, so conservation measures are in place. I have to say that the Barbastell bat, I'm losing my mask here, it's
very windy.
Going to the garden.
All of a sudden.
Poodle could become entangled with it, and then everything would be undone. The Barbastell bat is another species which has been highlighted amongst a plethora of bat species, ceratines, which are also on the list as well. Quite a lot of bats are in trouble. And then, of course, the hedgehog.
Our little hedgehog.
I know, the hedgehog is outrageous, and they've all been given classification. So I urge you to go onto the Mammal Society site where you can look at details of this. It makes for sorry reading, but unless we understand the parlous state of these animals, we won't feel motivated to conserve them. And it is a motivating thing. When I see that animals are in decline like this, it makes me want to get up and do something to put things right. 45% of our native mammals, that's 21 species, are currently at risk. And I have to say that this is not some sort of, what should we say, casual little survey that the Mammal Society have done. This is good science, and it's been ratified by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and they're the people who globally give all of those listings: red, vulnerable, threatened, near threatened, and so forth. So it's been sanctioned by them. This is shocking new science, and certainly worth a look.
Beaver, red squirrel, water vole, hazel dormouse,
wild boar, even.
Wild boar.
Data
deficient. A lot on the list.
Data deficient. We don't know enough about wild boar to give it a classification, which means that more work needs to be done.
Yeah.
So
lots of work to do. It's upsetting, but turn that energy, turn it into something positive, and do something productive to help these animals.
One of our great contributors is Andy Rouse. Andy Rouse is a brilliant photographer, also a very keen naturalist. He's been under lockdown this year, and he's been exploring his local patch with renewed gusto. We've seen his photographs of damselflies, little owls, all of the things that he's found around him. But this week, he's getting very excited about the potential of photographing some kingfishers in his local stream. Here is Andy out and about, up to his neck in water, humming Aha.
Well, here I am. It sounds like I got the southern drawl. Here I am in my local river again, this famous one. And I'm here today looking for the kingfisher nest, because the kingfishers, I found the nest at the end of their first brood. I didn't go anywhere near it because I didn't have a license, a Schedule 1 license to photograph it. Now I've got a Schedule 1 license and I've seen the kingfishers flapping up and down and looking at banks. I know that they're looking for a second nest, and I want to find that nest site really, really early so I can work out if it's worth photographing. I can get a hide on it early so that everyone gets used to each other, and in the week, which is the action week with kingfishers, when the young come out of the nest, they sit on the branch and the parents feed them. It's absolutely brilliant to watch. So in that week, everything will be great. There'll be no disturbance whatsoever, because even though I've got a Schedule 1 license, it doesn't give me carte blanche to do what I want. It's given to me on trust that I won't cause any disturbance. And with such a sensitive site as this, it's a very common bird that I need a license to photograph, but any bird at the nest is sensitive, particularly when they're going to bring young out. So I've got to be very, very careful and very diligent, which is why I'm wading 2 miles of the river today. So I'm in the river in my dodgy, leaky waders, humming along to Aha, and absolutely having the time of my life, because I love it here. I just love wading in rivers. It's awesome. This is not really the habitat for the kingfisher, but it's pointless getting out again and then getting in a bit further down where I know it is, because there's lots of other really cool stuff to find. This is how I found the damselflies like this. It's just magical down here, so you never know what you're going to come across, and you've got to be in it to win it. Even if in it does mean probably up to my neck in a minute. Oh, it's deep here. Very deep here. I think this is quite a deep stretch ahead. Now I'm just here at a big bend in the river, and there's a bank I want to look at there, but I know from experience that this is where the deepest river is, and sure enough I put my stick down in front of me and it went right in. So I'm going to have to cling to the sides. I've got no great desire to fall in here. Whoa! Whoa! Rouse collides with a bush live on camera. I'm quite disappointed, I have to say, that this bank doesn't have any holes in it. It was one of the places that I'd kind of earmarked to look at, but it's not to be, so I've got several more places to check over the next mile or so, so onward. Well, here's a possibility. Do you see that hole up there? It's got poo down this side of it, but I think that comes from the goldfinches above. But it's quite freshly dug. There's some fresh digging around the entrance. It looks like it's been widened. It's in a perfect place. It's got an overhanging branch. It's sheltered from the morning sun this way and the evening sun this way, so it won't get too hot when the young ones are in it. I don't want to hang around here too long because the kingfisher could come back and I don't want to disturb it. Because there could be a female in there right now incubating eggs, so I just need to get out of here, which I'm going to do. Now you may wonder why I'm putting so much effort into this kingfisher, because I've photographed literally hundreds in my career, sitting on beautiful perches, feeding young with fish, on no fishing signs, in the frost, diving, coming out, all kinds of stuff. So why am I photographing these? Well, they're my local kingfishers. It's the closest to my home. It's on my local patch. And I won't be traveling for a few months, and so why not sit in a hide watching something that makes you smile every single time you see it? And there is nothing that makes me smile more than this stunning, beautiful kingfisher. I love it. I just wish they'd show me where they live. Well, that's the end of my kingfisher spotting for the day. I found a few potential sites, but I'm not sure that I've actually nailed down the nest, and that's just the way it is. I have no problem in telling you I've been a failure today, not to find it. I think too many people in life are too afraid to admit when they fail. But I will be back another day, and I will keep piecing all of the clues together that I see. You know, the key here is time on the ground, and if I find the kingfishers and I get some really awesome pictures, then you're going to get to see them. All right, see you later.
There he is, intrepid as ever.
The man himself, Mr. Andy Rouse.
He will find it. He's a good naturalist, Andy. He will find it, and it's great that he was talking so clearly and concisely about the need that even if you have a license, you've got to respect these birds, and he's absolutely top notch at that. If you want to see more of Andy, go to his YouTube channel. He does programs there called Wild Angle. They're about photography, but they're not too techy. He doesn't get into all of the grisly detail of ISOs and all of those sorts of things. They're for wildlife lovers too. The one that he's currently running there was a whole load of them, but the most recent one is about kingfishers. He's got another one coming up this weekend about yellow wagtails, which will be fantastic. I mean, given the choice, kingfisher, yellow wagtail, for me, no contest.
Really?
Oh, no contest
Well,
at all.
yellow wagtail.
Oh,
not
definitely.
get kingfisher.
Kingfisher's too gaudy.
No, I like it.
Oh, it's so Versace.
I love a kingfisher.
No, it's just bling. I want to see it's complete bling. Yellow wagtail,
bling.
sleek, slender, yellow, wagging its tail. I mean, you know, does everything it says on the tin. Anyway, catch out Andy's Wild Angles on YouTube.
So now, time for our little announcement. We couldn't reveal it last week due to technical difficulties, but we can now. Are you excited?
I don't know if I'm excited or not.
I'm quite excited.
You're excited.
Of course I'm excited. Well, Chris and I have been very busy over the last few weeks because we have been doing a little project together. We have been writing a book.
Yeah.
Yeah. we've been writing a book. It's going to be called Back to Nature, and the idea about it is how to protect the environment, how to make it better, how to put it back together again. So we're going to be talking a little bit about your gardens, communities, and the broader aspects of conservation as well. So we've been busy getting our heads down, typing away.
Yes, but it's quite a manual, isn't it, really? It's a manual which offers you the opportunity to think about how you can better protect your environment, that you manage yourself, your window box, your garden, a community space perhaps, something like that, but also larger conservation projects that you can support, such as rewilding and reintroductions. And then lastly, about the politics and of conservation and environmental care, and also a bit about activism too, because even if you're just signing petitions, that's still activism. You're doing something proactive, and a lot of more people are getting a lot more frustrated with the lack of change in our environmental care, and therefore they are becoming more vocal and more active. And what we want to say, try and instruct people to do, is to make sure that your voice is heard. There's no point in shouting or moaning if no one's listening, so you've got to be heard. So I guess it's a sort of a manual, like it's a book of top tips on how you can help out and how they will pay dividends.
How to get involved in some of the localised projects and bigger projects too. And there's going to be snippets of science in there as well.
Oh, and Meg's putting culture in as well.
I'm putting culture, the whole interesting physiology, behaviour, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a real mishmash of kind of different things, a real good manual.
I think you need that because that's the fuel for anyone's interest in natural history. Some people, I suppose, might get into it because they just want to protect the world, but what makes them want to protect the world? And for us, it's the fascination of the sun, culture, and the simple beauty of nature. So all of that's going to be in there too. Anyway, we've got to get typing, haven't we, really? So we better wrap this show up and get our fingers back on the keyboard. Yes. I'm on reintroductions at the moment.
It's going to be out in November. So we haven't got long.
No, we've got. That's all right. I'm on reintroductions. I started reintroductions last night.
That's good. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, good. Okay. All right. Good. Hey, what about our quiz then? Now listen, I've put a pound of my own money, pound of the Queen's sterling currency up. If anyone could get this right, let's have a listen. I don't think I'll be breaking. Oh no! No one got that.
Hand it over.
No one got that.
Hand it over.
No one got that.
Come on. Get into your pockets now.
Right, who did it then?
Come on.
Who did it?
Simon What's Wild did it. He's a regular viewer for SIBC, which is brilliant.
He said
Barbara Straw bat. So thank you very much, Simon.
Okay, I'll have to go to the bank.
For a pound. Come on.
You already nick enough pounds out of the little pot that I put upstairs with all my change in. I've got a little pot. I put all my change in there, and I think I always get myself something nice when it sort of mounts up. It never mounts up. It sort of goes like this. Like, then it goes
back
down.
Charlotte and I, we're like parking.
Yeah, they nick it all for stuff like that. Anyway, any birthdays? Yesterday, very important birthday actually.
Yes. One of our own SIBC members.
Lindsay Chapman, 52 yesterday.
Was she? No.
52. No, you wouldn't believe it, would you? She looks so much younger.
No, she wasn't.
I don't know.
You're going to be in so much trouble.
52.
You had me then a little bit. There's no way. No.
Lindsay Chapman, 20. Happy birthday. Hope you had a good day, Lindsay. Hope you had a good day.
Very happy birthday to you, Lindsay. There were also other birthdays. So Denise Chapman, 50 today. Very happy birthday to you. You and your husband out doing gardening in the sun. So we hope you have a fantastic day doing that. It's a beautiful day.
Good day for that, yeah. Get it done by the evening though, because they're saying thunderstorms this evening. So,
And we've got Thomas Smithson. So this is actually Simon Watt's son. 10th birthday, I believe, on Monday just gone. So very happy birthday to you. Hope you enjoy your double digits. And then who else have we got? We've got Angela Blay. Happy birthday to you. And also Jill Wright, 65 today. Very happy birthday to you all. We hope you have a fantastic day. Beautiful day for a birthday.
Beautiful day for a birthday.
Absolutely.
Beautiful day to learn a little bit more about raccoons and coatis. And you can do that this afternoon on the Wild Heart Trust Facebook page. Last week I was there talking about lemurs, some of the animals they have at the rescue centre on the Isle of Wight. Today it's raccoons and coatis. I like a coati Monday. One of the most naughtiest animals.
Oh, they've got great noses.
The nose is into everything. They're an opportunistic omnivore, which means they're on the sniff for anything. Someone came into my house once when I had a sort of a tatty Victorian flat with bookshelves covered with all the usual stuff. And I went into the kitchen to make a cup of tea. I was drinking tea at that time. And I didn't hear anything because the radio was on. When I went back into the front room, every book, every video as it was then, the Coati had been on the shelves, and the whole lot was on the floor.
Coati? They're not UK.
No, it was again, it was an animal that had come from a rescue centre, and it was in transition, and they brought it down en route, and it had been hand reared and was tame, and it was going somewhere else to be properly looked after, and I was very pleased it was going somewhere else to be properly looked after, because it took me the rest of the day to put everything back on the shelf. Anyway, learn more about them this afternoon. Wild Heart Trust Facebook page, 3 o'clock.
Now, we were just talking about masks, and we got sent in a photo from Lucy Lapwing, who's a very good friend of ours, who's been creating her own mask. So we thought we'd just show you this quickly. She's done her own photo of a Swift mask. That's great, isn't it? She's going to be making some of those.
Hold on. Oh, yes, I see there. Yeah. That's a Swift with its mouth open there. I can see it in the top right there. Yeah.
So she's going to be making those, and I think they're going to be available to purchase. So if you'd like to...
yeah, but the money's going to Swift Conservation.
Money's going to Swift Conservation charities, which is going to be fantastic.
Well, I think so. Well, now we've said it, it'll have to, won't you? So if Lucy thought you were making a quick buck out of a mask, it's all going to charity. Bad luck, Lucy. Let's just ruin her business venture.
So you can follow Lucy on @Lucy Lapwing, and I'm sure there'll be details there for you to have a look at if you fancy getting a mask.
Okay, what have we got next week coming up? Xander. We've got Xander from Scotland. He's worked with us on Springwatch.
He's
Xander.
Brilliant young man.
He calls himself Ant Boy, but he's more than ants. I tell you what, he's one of the best young entomologists that we've ever met. He's really good. Hopefully something from Luke Massey. Maybe it's those bears. We're not meant to say that because
come on, Luke.
He's still been chasing.
Where are these bears?
Chasing those bears around. It doesn't have to be bears. Last time he sent us some beautiful butterflies, didn't he?
Yeah.
We've got a Scottish wildlife film from Scotland about wildlife during lockdown, which is coming in. A little bit from us about the British Wildlife Centre as well, which we visited recently, and you can now visit as well. So along with urging you to visit the Hawke Conservancy Trust in Andover in Hampshire, we'd like you to encourage to book up and go to the British Wildlife Centre.
Yeah.
Fantastic
Oh, it's
stuff
so
there.
good.
Otters, foxes, badgers,
Yeah.
weasels that just come out and sit right in front of you. You know how tricky it is to see a weasel? Go to the British Wildlife Centre, take yourself a sandwich, just sit down, a weasel just comes out and smiles at you.
Pine marten too.
Pine martens
jumping around all over the place. Red squirrels, you name it.
Yep.
British wildlife.
Loads of good conservation being done there. Been breeding red squirrels for release, breeding dormouse for release as well.
Yeah.
Scottish wildcats are part of that project I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, you can see wildcats.
Captive breeding for potential
really
release in the future. So it's a really good place to go, and we'll give you a bit of an update about that next week. Yeah, all good stuff. I think we're done, aren't we, really?
I think
Better go and get on with writing the book.
Yes, better get finished.
So we'll leave you with those Diffie Ospreys and see you again next week at 9 o'clock.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a good weekend.